Ladies and gentlemen, before you hear it on the news, I'm going to tell you myself. About an hour ago, we had an incident where one of the employees stuck their arm through the cage and a tiger tore her arm off. I can give you your money back, or I can give you a rain check.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a mysterious new episode of RT Essentials. I'm your host, Mark Ellis, and you know, true crime stories have made for must-see TV as far back as the late 80s, and with the rise of streaming services over the past decade, the world of true crime has become must-see TV as well. And with nearly every platform now trying to find the next viral phenomenon, you internet sleuths out there have more options than ever, or at least more than you can shake your mouse at. And whether you like to play along and try to solve the crime by yourself, or just sit back like a bump on a log, like me, and let the pros solve it, it would truly be a crime for you to miss this list. Because today we're talking about the greatest true crime series of all time. Don't F with Cats, Hunting an Internet Killer.
So I called my sister, because my sister's a psychologist and she studied criminal profiling. She said, this person is doing this for shock value. This person is a person that needs a lot of attention. This isn't the first time. It's not going to be the last time. And this is going to get progressively worse.
Yeah, don't mess with the cats, and don't F with Cats, Hunting an Internet Killer isn't quite as feline-filled as the title suggests, but that doesn't mean it's not perfectly satisfying. It's funny. And yes, there are more cat puns on the way. This series covers the events surrounding a crowdsourced amateur investigation by a group of online justice seekers who tracked down a guy after he posted a video of himself killing kittens. I know, I'm very upset about it too. Anyway, it turns out the guy's a Canadian pornographic actor, which is apparently a thing, and it all develops into a story involving the killing of a person. I know what you're thinking. Mark, you've got to be kidding me right meow. Again, cats, and it's a dark thing, so we're trying to make it fun. This 3-part docuseries starts off when a video called One Boy, Two Kittens goes viral, showing the culprit playing with and eventually suffocating 2 kittens. That's when a data analyst in Las Vegas teams up with a man in Los Angeles to start a Facebook group. This is where they build evidence by examining the details of the video to help catch this guy.
We picked apart every little thing in that room. Then I created a schematic or diagram of the layout of the room so everybody understood where each thing was.
While the series does check a lot of boxes for true crime fans, one criticism it has faced is that it gives fame seekers an even bigger platform. Mashable's Allison Foreman called it a fascinating watch, examining the risks that come with taking justice into your hands, but that it struggles to convey a cohesive message. And despite a few imperfect reviews, the series was an immediate and huge success. Netflix said it was one of their top 5 most watched documentaries of 2019, despite being released in December of that year. Plus, it picked up a Creative Arts Emmy Award for Outstanding Writing for a nonfiction program. That's like 9 lives worth of accomplishments in just 3 episodes, am I right? Okay, we're mercifully done. Unsolved Mysteries.
At the beginning of the investigation, I tried to determine whether Mr. Riviere was in the hotel at all. So I checked the cameras in the hotel. And there was no footage of him anywhere.
It's time to take it back to the godfather of true crime series, the OG, pretty much where it all started, Unsolved Mysteries. Now, unraveling the history of where the show has aired through the years is a bit of a mystery on its own, but that's one I'm confident that even I can solve today. This series has used a documentary format to profile real-life mysteries like unsolved crimes, missing persons cases, and unexplained phenomenon by way of good old reenactments. And what do reenactments need? That's right, actors. In fact, a few stars like Matthew McConaughey, Cheryl Hines, Daniel Day Kim, Ned Bellamy, and Taran Killam appeared on the program before moving on to bigger and arguably better things. Probably just bigger things.
In one of the documents, it says 99.9% sure it is a suicide. But when the investigators went through the room, they couldn't find any identity.
What began as a series of specials on NBC back in 1987 became a full-fledged series by 1988 with the man himself, Robert Stack, serving as host in the only ominous, dramatic way that he knew how. After 9 series on NBC, the series moved to CBS in 1997, where it lasted just 2 6-episode seasons and was canceled in 1999. The next year, the series was revived by Lifetime, where it aired for 2 years and 103 episodes, ending in 2002. Whew, can I get a water break? That was a lot of thinking. and talking. After 6 years of mysteries just going unsolved, I guess, the series was resurrected by Spike TV in 2008, airing until 2010. And then in 2019, Netflix picked up a reboot of the series, which premiered on July 1st, 2020, with an additional season ordered for 2022. We can always count on Netflix. Now that the show is back, the consensus from critics is that the latest reboot is slick and features compelling cases, with Rolling Stone's Daniel Krebs saying that the OG still has something left to teach the genre it helped create. And when a TV series can help solve actual real-world crimes like this one has been doing for decades, let's keep it around as long as we can, shall we? The Lady and the Dale.
I thought this was the beginning of a real life where we could be a normal family, because this was real. But my secret self was wondering when it was going to end, when they were going to find out that my mother was really my father who was in trouble with the law.
And now, because true crime knows no boundaries, we move into the world of three-wheeled cars with the HBO series The Lady and the Dale. And no matter how many wheels you got, it's a wild ride. This certified fresh 4-episode series revolves around the story of entrepreneur Elizabeth Carmichael, who received instant stardom during the 1970s gas crisis when she released a fuel-efficient, three-wheeled vehicle called the Dale. But as the car increased in popularity, so did the media scrutiny surrounding its technology, unfolding a mystery regarding Carmichael's surprising past and her complicated story as a trans person.
She had to say something, make up something to keep the waters, level, or else bad things were going to happen. And pretty soon, bad things did happen. She had to, run for the hills.
It features interviews with members of Carmichael's family, along with news anchors, journalists, and former employees. The critics' consensus says the result is an intoxicating blend of historical footage, candid interviews, and animation that deftly captures Carmichael's incredible life. With Inku Kang from the Washington Post saying that there's no more fantastical yarn than the one spun here, nor a portrait so profoundly human. And if that's not enough to make you want to take this true crime story for a test drive, actor and producer Mark Duplass, along with his brother Jay Duplass, serve as executive producers under their Duplass Brothers Productions. So you see, it's a fun and sometimes frightening family affair all around. Wild, wild country.
She was really pale, and she told us, tomorrow Bhagwan is going to orchestrate his death. Tomorrow Devaraj is going to kill him.
Next, we're going to take you to the Oregon desert. Well, you can stay comfortably where you are. We'll just go there in spirit for the Netflix docuseries Wild Wild Country. Not to be confused with Will Smith's Wild Wild West. Trust me, it's a common mistake. One has a giant spider and the other one is the certified fresh true crime story hitting Netflix in March of 2018 after premiering at the Sundance Film Festival. And it chronicles the issues that arise when a controversial guru builds a utopian city in the Oregon desert, causing a massive conflict with local ranchers. Things escalate to include a massive case of illegal wiretapping and the first ever bioterror attack in the United States. Now you can see why there are two wilds in the title. One wild just does not capture all of that wild.
We started buying the properties in Antelope to secure our existence as a city. And we took over.
The central figures in this twisted tale include Indian guru Bhagwan Shree Rajneesh, aka Osho, his follower Shubham Yadav, and his one-time personal assistant Ma Anaj Sheila, who emerges as a provocative spokeswoman for the commune. They, along with their community of followers, are part of a story which is considered a pivotal yet largely forgotten time in American cultural history, where the country's tolerance for the separation of church and state was put to the test. And the story didn't stop with this series, as the documentary film Searching for Sheila arrived on Netflix in April of 2021, following Osho's former top 8 on her first journey home to India in more than 30 years. It aims to shine a little more light on her alleged involvement and eventual prosecution for the 1984 bioterror attack in Oregon. With Mark and Jay Duplass serving as executive producers for this series as well, the critics say that Wild Wild Country succeeds as an intriguing examination of a forgotten piece of history that must be seen to be believed, with NPR's Linda Holmes calling it an often bizarre story that is full of twists and unforgettable characters. Sounds like a wild ride. Sorry, wild ride. I'll put another one in there. Wild ride. Check it out. Tiger King, murder, mayhem, and madness.
We hear it's Carol's birthday next month.
And we're shipping her 2 of these. Look at the fangs on that.
One day I went out to open up the mailbox and it just exploded with snakes.
There could be an argument made that no true crime series has impacted pop culture as swiftly and as powerfully as our next series, in part thanks to a global pandemic, and that's Tiger King: Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. This series is an exploration of the small but deeply interconnected business of big cat breeding and its bizarre underworld. It centers around the colorful life of a zookeeper named Joe Exotic, along with other big cat conservationists like Carole Baskin and Jeff Lowe. And the best drama here comes from the bitter ongoing feud between Mr. Exotic and Miss Baskin, which eventually leads to Joe's conviction under federal murder for hire statute. See kids, even kings can go to jail here in the United States, especially if they're Tiger King. The first season of Tiger King was unleashed on Netflix on March 20th, 2020. And if that date feels familiar, it's because that's pretty much the exact time most of America was officially stuck at home and looking for something to watch. And according to Netflix, over 34 million people did watch this series over its first 10 days of release, ranking as one of the most successful releases at the time for the streaming giant. Hey, it's gotta be better than that Imagine vid that all those celebrities did, right?
Did I hear you say you wanted my f***ing watch? Really? My watch? They tell me you want my god bed, too.
The second season, accurately titled Tiger King 2, came in November of 2021 and continues on in the aftermath of Joe's imprisonment and further explores theories surrounding the disappearance of Carole Baskin's first husband. And then a spin-off season, Tiger King: The Doc Antle Story, was released just a month later in December of 2021, and that dives into the life of one of Joe and Carol's biggest rivals, the man known as Doc Antle. The heir to the Tiger throne? Perhaps? Critics and fans dug the certified fresh first season, with the Boston Globe's Mark Shanahan saying that he learned a few ugly yet important truths that make Tiger King worthwhile. And as far as what critics think of the second season and the spin-off, let's just say that cat puns like "this kitty has no claws" have been used frequently. Atlanta's Missing and Murdered: The Lost Children.
I dream about him all the time, but I never see his face. I hear his voice, but I don't ever see his face.
Unfortunately, not all true crime series can be shocking in a Tiger King kind of way, but rather shocking in a tragic type of way, and that's where Atlanta's Missing and Murdered: The Lost Children comes in. This 5-part documentary series brings new evidence to light in the abduction and murder of approximately 30 African American children and young adults over a span of time between 1979 and 1981. Now, with the official reopening of the case 40 years later by the mayor of Atlanta, this inside story sheds new light on these horrific crimes through exclusive archival material and interviews with those closest to the investigation. Released in April of 2020 on HBO Max, the series kicks off with the initial disappearance and discovery of 2 murdered teenage boys, following the ensuing fear that slowly overtook the city of Atlanta until the prosecution of 23-year-old Wayne Williams, found guilty of murdering 2 adults and to whom police attributed the murders of 10 children, though he was never charged or tried in connection with them.
It's been a long time since that trial, and I still have times when I wake up at night wondering what else could we have done.
But with many of the children's cases being closed, this series raises new questions related to the racial tensions and political clashes of the time, bringing new evidence to light through never-before-seen footage, interviews, and court documents. The consensus from critics is that this true crime series is as gripping as it is chilling, with Valerie Complex from Collider saying that it brilliantly shows various vantage points, giving the viewer enough information to decide what side they're on. The Jinx: The Life and Deaths of Robert Durst.
I explained to him, you've been arrested for, homicide. Your bond has been set at $250,000. And he asked me, he said, well, what should I do? And I said, I don't know. Do you have $250,000? And he just calmly looked at me and he goes, well, not on me.
Not since Fred Durst in the late 90s has someone with the last name Durst gotten people this riled up, and it's all thanks to HBO's The Jinx: The Life and Deaths of Robert Durst. This 2015 series was directed and produced by Andrew Jarecki and produced and shot by Mark Smerling, the Oscar-nominated team behind 2003's certified fresh documentary film Capturing the Freedmen. They're back at it with this groundbreaking 6-part documentary that explores the odd history of real estate heir Robert Durst, the still unsolved 1982 disappearance of his wife, and the murders of family friend Susan Berman and neighbor Morris Black. The series is the result of 10 years of research by the filmmakers who bring forth police files, key witnesses, never-before-seen footage, private prison recordings, and countless pages of formerly hidden documents.
If you had him sitting here, what would you say to him?
What did you do with it? Because the key is with him.
All of that is expertly stitched together with an extended, revealing interview that Jarecki conducts with Durst. The pair developed a unique relationship following the release of All Good Things, Jarecki's 2010 feature film starring Ryan Gosling and Kirsten Dunst that is all about, you guessed it, Durst's life. The Jinx really registered in the pop culture ethos on the eve of the final episode's airing in March of 2015 when Durst was arrested in New Orleans by the FBI. It was for a first-degree murder warrant in connection to Berman's death from an investigation based on new evidence presented in the series. You see, Mom, TV does do good things, which is why I watch it all day. Audiences and critics were definitely feeling this series, with NPR's Eric Deggans saying that it created a new version of true crime television. High praise considering the world of true crime is definitely not lacking in the content department. Dateline NBC.
I was your regular run-of-the-mill hoodlum. And it's something that I regret, but it's a part of my life that I can't avoid or deny, you know. I was a kid growing up in the Bronx, and I learned the wrong habits, but that doesn't make me a murderer.
This next series has changed a lot since it began back in 1992, but hey, who hasn't? I'm still wearing my acid-wash jeans. We're talking about the one and only Dateline NBC. Are you bored in a hotel room? Don't worry, Dateline NBC is on. What started out as NBC's flagship general interest news magazine has evolved over the past 30 years to become a show that now mainly focuses on true crime stories. And for that, we say thank you. And if it feels like you see it everywhere, you're right. It's repackaged hour-long episodes of Dateline that you'll see on all kinds of cable and satellite channels, and again, in every hotel room. Thank you so much for helping me sleep and keeping me up some nights. The program debuted on March 31st, 1992, when people were listening to Right Said Fred's I'm Too Sexy on the radio. They're not listening to that anymore. And they drove to see White Men Can't Jump in the theater, which I actually did watch again last night.
The reality is that Frank is 20 years old right now. He has the mentality of about a year-old baby.
The original anchors, who arguably became household names thanks to this show, were Stone Phillips and Jane Pauley. And when the program joined with the previously separate news magazine, now with Tom Brokaw and Katie Couric, those two nobodies became part of Dateline as well. And through the years, the anchor seat was also kept warm by names like Brian Gumbel, Maria Shriver, Ann Curry, Joe Exotic, and Lester Holt. I only made up one of those. The series began by airing 2 nights a week, peaking at 5 nights a week in 1999 and 2000. As things began to evolve, a number of popular spin-off series were born from Dateline, like To Catch a Predator, Wild Wild Web, there's that Wild Wild again, and To Catch a Con Man. Plus, in February of 2021, Dateline launched its first ever docuseries, The Widower, a 5-hour true crime saga about a man who married 6 women, 4 of whom died. But if you feel like you're a Dateline NBC fan but have no one in your life who shares that love, fear not. A number of stars have admitted their obsession with the show over the years, including Stevie Nicks, Michael Bublé, Bill Hader, Molly Sims, Dax Shepard, Kristen Chenoweth, and Mark Ellis, a well-liked host. The Staircase.
And the last I saw her was when I was there, and she was just walking here. That's it. That was the last I saw Kathleen alive. No. She was alive when I found her, but barely.
Our next true crime series, The Staircase, features a guy who was once known for writing stories, but became even more known for the stories that were being written about him once he became a suspect in his wife's death. The story centers around novelist Michael Peterson, whose wife died in 2001 after what he claimed was a fall down some stairs at their home. But when the medical examiner determined that there was more foul play involved, Peterson became part of a murder investigation. And viewers get to soak in a real-life courtroom thriller as it plays out, following the investigation from the arrest to the verdict reached in the ensuing trial. The series, which now lives on Netflix in 13 episodes, began with 8 episodes back in 2005, airing on various networks in Europe, and as a 2-hour abbreviated version on ABC here in the United States. But as developments were made in the case, more episodes were added in 2013 and again in 2018 when Netflix picked it up and made it available as one cohesive series.
If I spend too much time arguing that he's innocent, in essence, I relieve the state of its burden of proof. I invite the jury to weigh, well, is Rudolph right or is Hardin right?
The success of The Staircase led to a dramatic limited series for HBO Max, which is an adaptation of the docuseries. It stars Colin Firth as Peterson, Toni Collette as his wife Kathleen, along with Sophie Turner, Patrick Schwarzenegger, Rosemarie DeWitt, and others in the cast as well. The consensus from critics on this series is that it offers a gripping and detailed depiction of the complex justice system, with IndieWire's Steve Green saying that if The Staircase is a puzzle, it's one that still works no matter how you decided to arrange the pieces. Okay, that settles it. Who wants to come over for puzzle night? My place. 4 of you can fit. Making a Murderer.
I think Stephen was a representative in that case of the entire Avery family and how the sheriff's department saw them as kind of a problem and definitely undesirable members of the community, for lack of a better term.
And finally, this true crime series, Making a Murderer, had much of America making themselves investigators for a good portion of 2015. The series premiered on Netflix in December of 2015 after a decade in the making. And it tells the story of a Wisconsin man who spent nearly 20 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit before being exonerated, the lawsuit he filed against Manitowoc County in Wisconsin and several people involved with his arrest, and the subsequent murder of a 25-year-old woman who was last seen on, you guessed it, his property.
I didn't know what to do, how to handle it, because it was putting too much pressure on me. People would come up to me and say, "You're doing that and you're doing that?" No, not in the middle of winter. In the middle of the road. It made me look like I was no good person.
Avery and his nephew Brendan Dassey were tried and convicted of the crime, but a couple of Columbia graduate students got a hold of the story and thought it would make an interesting documentary. And I think you could say they were right. Those Columbia kids are pretty good eggs, and the first season generated plenty of publicity, both good and bad, with officials in Wisconsin insisting that not all the evidence is being presented in the series. And the certified fresh first season wasn't just a hit with true crime-hungry fans, critics were into it as well. Sam Adams, not the beer guy, the Rolling Stone critic, said that the series goes deep instead of broad, exploiting the inherent drama of a murder investigation and subsequent criminal trials. Plus, the first season received 6 Primetime Emmy nominations and took home 4 statues, including one for Outstanding Documentary Series. Talk about making a success story. And there you have it, our list of the greatest true crime series of all time. The mystery has been solved. And now, the next true crime I'm ready to solve is, who ate all of the leftovers out of the fridge? There's only like 2 people here, Ed, and I'm one of them, and I was looking forward to that slice of pizza. Thanks for checking out RT Essentials. I'm Mark Ellis, who went to Wake Forest, known as the Columbia of the Appalachian Mountain region. And remember, if your neighbor seems like they're up to something fishy, they definitely are, and you should make a docuseries about it. And have me as an executive producer. We'll see you next time here on RT Essentials.